Alright, so y'all are gonna have to forgive me. I started this video well after I had already put my crystals on and started my texture. I start a lot of my projects thinking that, oh, this one is not going to be that good. No one is going to see it. And a lot of other times I'm just lazy setting up, and you know, the setup for doing videos and everything just takes effort. And a lot of times you be in the moment, you don't want to step away from what you're doing. And it feels like, you know, when you begin to film, you try to make everything perfect. So a lot of times I get discouraged from filming, but I decided to do it anyway because why not? So again, I already laid down my crystals, but here I am mixing my colors, and I didn't really have a plan on what I was going to do with these colors. I knew I wanted different shades of pink, and I was just experimenting. I believe to get the different colors of pink, I added some black pigment to the base pink just to get a darker version, and I think I did the same thing by adding a white to it as well to get a lighter version. But as I went along, I was just kind of making it up as I go, and so yeah, let's just watch. I do want to mention that when I was making or prepping my board, I did layer my board with resin first. So that little shadow that you see that looks like a light bulb in the middle is a reflection because the board is shiny. I made it, I coated it with resin, let it dry so that my base was smooth. Because what I did notice when pouring onto boards without prepping or priming first is that the board does absorb the resin, and a lot of times you end up using way more resin than you need to because the board is soaking it up. The board be dry, and when you lay your resin on, you know, it's porous, so it sucks it up. So a lot of times you'll see artists, they'll prime it with white paint, or they'll use black paint or whatever to give it a nice base, so to help eliminate that. But I decided to use resin this time around because I actually wanted my colors to glide and slide. So yeah. Colors, and I am going over it with a torch, and adding heat with the torch does give it a little bit more detail, but you don't want to overheat it. You don't want to burn your resin, and you don't want to heat up your resin so much that it runs into the other colors and basically ruins the shape that you're giving it. So a little bit of heat will actually go a long way. It will help pop the bubbles and bring the bubbles to the surface, and it'll also help your colors blend better. So you'll notice as I'm pouring my colors that I am following the shape of the crystals that I poured. It's basically to keep a pattern going. Eventually the colors will run their own way, but it looks way more natural when you're following a pattern or a shape until it naturally rolls into its own formation. But yeah, I have no real, I have no real technique or no real plan as to which colors I'm laying next to what. Like I said, this is a trial and error, and I'm basically going by looks. I will be honest and let you know that as I was pouring this, I was not confident in this piece at all. I felt like the colors didn't work, or I didn't place them in the right spot, but I kind of just kept going, and eventually I landed at a point where I just needed a moment to think. this point in my project that I was pouring my lines a little bit too thick. So I began to thin them out just a little bit. And I noticed that when I did that and I ran the torch over it, my lines began to bleed together. So that's what you do want to avoid. But it does work out in the end. But yeah, like I said, this project was all about trial and error. So up until this point in the project, I was winging it, and it's at this point that I realized that I'm a little afraid of what it looks like. So off camera, I finish it and I come back later when most of it is done, and that is basically what you see here. So off camera, I basically finished adding the colors, and I also went ahead and added a layer of white line details. So yeah, I kind of skipped a lot, but I was really worried about what it looked like, to the point where I tried to fix it and then I got lost in trying to fix it and forgot to film. That's why I say it's difficult trying to remember to film, or it's difficult remembering to film because you be lost in the moment. I was lost in the moment trying to fix something that I thought was basically lost, and I skipped a lot of the process. So I apologize, you guys, but in future tutorials, there will not be any missed details. I will tell you that. But yeah, the white line details, adding, black negative space to the board like I just did to the corner over there, and basically getting ready to prep it for some glitter detail lines. So yeah, I mean, you didn't miss the best part. The best part is the details to me. So stay tuned. So when prepping to do my glitter lines, I like to use a bright glitter. I mix my glitters with a chunky glitter and a fine glitter, kind of like a 50-50 ratio. And when I mix my glitter with resin, I don't add a lot of resin. I like my glitter to be thick so that when I put it into my condiment bottle and squeeze it out, it will actually maintain a shape. I use the condiment bottle because it gives it a very even line when it comes out, and it gives me more control over where my line is going. I am able to upcycle the bottles, so these bottles do get used quite a few times before they're thrown away. But here I will actually highlight where I made a mistake. So like I said, I don't really plan where I'm going to be doing my details. I kind of just go with the flow. And as I was doing this piece, I ended up not liking where I put a glitter line. And a lot of times if you work fast, you are able to save your work. So while my work was still wet, I gave it a look over and realized, oh, this is not what I want. So I go back and I begin to remove the work that I did. Did it work? Absolutely. The trick to removing glitter from your resin art project is the use of alcohol. So what you don't see on camera is that I use rubbing alcohol on the paper towels to help and saturate it, and it helps remove the residue from the canvas. So I'm going over the canvas, all the little spots and speckles literally gets wiped up clean, nothing is left over. But this only works if you're wiping dry canvas. So the canvas that I was working on, that I put my glitter lines on, was hardened to the core. It was dry from the day before, and I was able to do this without damaging what was already done. It definitely feels like this looks much better. I like the white space having more visibility on the project, being as though there's so much color and so much gold going on. So I feel like I definitely made the right move with removing that gold glitter line from the white area. So at this point in my project, I'm just basically tidying up. I'm going over any areas that may have any glitter left over. I'm adding more black to the negative space that I have. I'm just making sure that before this bad boy starts to dry, that everything is where it needs to be. So at this point, I'm gonna check my glitter lines, make sure there are no gaps and that everything's filled in while everything's still nice and wet, so I can make any corrections if need be. One thing that I do want to mention that is extremely important is the use of PPE. You will notice that in this video, parts of the video, I do not have on my gloves. At some point I thought it was a bright idea to not put gloves back on because, oh, I'm lazy. But that's actually a health hazard. I actually have seen the results of people who have not used gloves to do their resin art projects, and it did a number to their fingers, their skin, and it's just not good. So while you see me doing this freely with my fingers, please, 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 please don't do what I'm doing. You know, hear me out and protect yourself, because after I made this video and I watched it, I cringed, and I am going to forever correct my behavior. All right, so at this point in the project, I am now adding more details. I am adding gold metallic marker to the outlines of the glitter lines that I added. So these glitter lines are dry. This is the canvas another day after I finished the other details, and I am just going over all the glitter details with metallic marker. And the next thing that I do after that is I mix alcohol ink with some pigment, and I go over the crystals. So wherever the crystals meet the glitter lines, I am going to be adding this alcohol ink mixture. It adds variation, it helps finish off the canvas, and it gives it a shape and it gives it more depth to the crystals. At first you may not notice it, and because my hand is in the way the whole time, you may not even notice what I'm actually adding to it. But if you look at a before and after of where the glitter lines are and where I am now adding this alcohol ink detail, you'll notice that it now makes it look very seamless. It looks a part of the canvas. It gives it another gold tone that just makes your eyes travel all over the edges of this piece. I mean, it's stunning. Here's my completed project. I would more than likely come back to it and add more details later, but I like to leave it at a point where I'm satisfied so that my inspiration will grow onto it. So here we are.